Hey there, comic book fans. I am back from the comic shop again this week. It's a pretty big week for me with 9 comics. 4 of them being reprints, though. And before I get started, GPAP, Jean Paul Ace Peter, longtime comic book YouTuber and friend to everyone, is selling a bunch of his key issues over on his channel, which is named Jean Paul Ace Peter. I guess he's a Kiss fan. But he's looking to move a lot of his comics, and he's told everyone to spread the word. So if you're looking for some key issues from the Silver Age, the Bronze Age, up to now, he's got tons of them. I'll leave a link down below so you can go over and check out his channel in case you haven't heard or don't know him. But why wouldn't you know? He's been around forever on YouTube. But anyway, here's the first freebie thing I got. I turned the page in fear with the new Hill House comics. Joe Hill's got a new imprint with DC. I have no plans to get any of them, but I was a Lock and Key fan, so I bought the collected editions of all the Lock and Key stuff. But you know, we'll give this a read, see how good it is. And let's start with the reprints. We've got True Believers, Uncanny X-Men, Kitty Pryde, and Emma Frost. What is this, 129? 129 of X-Men? This is my heyday of the X-Men. I was buying these off the... I started with Dave Cockrum, and I went all the way up through the Byrne and Claremont run. And I really loved this stuff when it was coming out. I still have the original issue on my shelf, but I figured I'd get a nice new bright reprint of it for $1. So I haven't read these in a long, long time. But I got to tell you, what year did this come out? Does it still have a year on it? 1979. So let's see, what part of 1979? January 19. So this came out in 78. So I was what? This is 12 years old. What a great time to be reading Byrne and Claremont X-Men. They're really, really good stuff. Enjoyed it thoroughly back when I was 10 to 14. I think that was when this stuff was coming out. Was probably my favorite comic when I was 10 to 14. So I look forward to reading that fresh new printing of it. But I was completely out of the X-Men by whenever this is the 90s, right? X-Men 292, yeah. X-Men 200 was the last issue. That's where I stopped collecting the X-Men, early 80s sometime. So I was never around for 282. What year is this? It's got a little 1991. But I was nostalgic for this because even though I never read them, who is it? This is Will Prostasio doing this one. Plotter, penciler, John Byrne, scripter. I didn't know John Byrne scripted the first issue, the first appearance of Bishop, but I was working at Marvel in the bullpen at this time, doing paste ups on a lot of this stuff. So this one was just pure nostalgia for me to pick up. I don't think I've ever read the first appearance of Bishop before. I didn't read many of the X-Men from the early 90s, so I'm looking forward to that one. I laugh at this one because this is the Joker #1 from the 70s. I guess they don't reprint the cover. And I used to have some of these Joker issues when I was a kid, and they were terrible. I mean, they weren't good at all. Let's see, who does this? Denny O'Neil, Irv Novick, and Dick Giordano. I didn't like them when I was 10 to 14. I probably won't like it now, but one thing, I picked it up purely because it was $1 and out of nostalgia. I can't stand the Joker. I never liked the Joker as a character. I never found Joker stories interesting. Certainly a solo Joker book didn't tickle my fancy, but I picked it up. I just want to see if it's as mediocre as I remember it being. And if it is, oh well, it's only $1. And then we've got a better Batman. But it better be for $4. This is the facsimile edition of Batman 251 with that famous Neil Adams cover of the Joker holding the Batman on a card. I see this in a lot of, the original. In a lot of YouTube hauls, people are always getting this issue for the cover. So I was like, you know what? For $4, I'll get it for the cover too. It's, Joker story. I just don't like the Joker. don't find him interesting in any way, shape, or form. But Neil Adams Batman from the 70s. This is Denny O'Neil, right? Denny O'Neil. Oh, and old Neil Adams even inked this one. There's no inker on him, so that's cool. I don't think I've ever actually read this comic. I'm not sure. It's one I've seen the cover so many times that I'm not positive I haven't read it, but I don't think I've read it. I mean, I could have read it in some random Batman collected edition. I think I have like a Batman from the 70s collected edition, but though I've looked through that plenty of times, I haven't actually read it since the 90s, so I'm not sure what's in it. Okay, now we get on to the new comics. Necromancers Map, number 2. A third Vault comic that I put on my pull list. I found the first issue very good. Man, these Vault comics, the indies are making better produced comics. I mean, not talking the talent it takes to make the insides, but just the comic itself, the physical comic. Nice paper stock, well printed. It's just so much better than the DC and Marvel stuff. It's amazing. But like I said, I like the first issue. It's a fantasy story, and our lead is this woman who's a necromancer, and she can raise the dead. But that's kind of a double-edged sword, because when she raises the dead, they're still dead, and they know they're dead, and they follow her around. So it's really weird so far. I think there was another necromancer story before this with the same woman. I never read it. I just picked up I picked up the first issue a month ago on a whim. So, but I liked it. I liked the artwork. Oh, it's a wraparound cover. I liked it. I liked the artwork. Vault does a lot of sci-fi, fantasy, and horror. So another fantasy one from Vault. That's pretty cool. And here we go. Issue 37 of Manifest Destiny. One of those like 2013, 2014 Image books that's still chugging along. Takes hiatuses and comes back. It's fantasy version, I guess, of Lewis and Clark expedition across the U.S. in 1702 or something like that. But there's monsters and magic and strange creatures, and they're trying to make their way across the United States, and they run into all sorts of things. So it's what would you call this? Alternate history with some fantasy thrown in. I've been buying it for 37 issues and enjoy it. It's a quest book, I guess you'd call it, because they're on a quest to go all the way across the country. But they keep running into these giant arches that have magical stuff in them, and it's just a good story. Who does this one? Charles Dingus, Matthew Roberts, and Owen Gienny. I think, let's see. Pat Brousseau is the letterer. I don't follow a lot of creators on Twitter. For some reason, I find myself following Pat Brousseau, the letterer on the book, who's been a long-time letterer. I think he worked at the Marvel bullpen before me in the 80s, too. So, I just saw, he just happened to post that, another book that I'd lettered is coming out. It's like, I didn't even realize he, lettered that one, Manifest Destiny. So, he's the one person on the creative team. I know what he's up to. And then we've got Grendel. Issue 1 of 8, which is Devil's Odyssey. Matt Wagner and Brendan Wagner. I think his son is doing his colors now, and Matt Wagner's doing all the art. And this is Future Grendel. I'm a biggest fan of the Hunter Rose Grendel, but then he also had a Grendel series where all through time, sort of the Grendel mask was passed down. He sort of became this devil figure. Oh, I've got a devil figure in my shirt. Look at that. He became this devil figure in the future at the center of this religion. I didn't read a lot of the later stuff in that Grendel Volume 1 or was from the 80s and 90s. I didn't read a lot of that because Matt Wagner wasn't doing it. Sometimes he was just writing it. Sometimes someone else was writing it and drawing it. So I didn't follow a lot of this Grendel Prime stuff. But here's a series from Matt Wagner about Grendel Prime, so I'll give that a read. And here's one I picked up, Copra number 1. Because this is one of those books I've never read, but I've seen it mentioned places. It's been an indie book. I think he self-published it. Michael Fife, or Fifey, I don't know how to pronounce his name. It's a superhero book, an indie superhero book. It's extra thick for $3.99 is the first issue, so I just figured I'd give the first issue a try, see if I liked it, because, you know, I'm an indie book guy. So maybe I'll like this one has been critically acclaimed for a while, or at least I've seen it mentioned by enough people as good that I can call it critically acclaimed. So we'll give that one a read. And our final book is Birthright. Issue number 40. Another one of I guess this came around the same time as Manifest Destiny, maybe a little later. Fantasy story. Barbarian story. Magic story. Earth and twin magic Earth. Telerot. I can't remember the name of the other Earth. Magicians on the other Earth came over to our Earth and tried to hide out from their big evil magician back home. Big evil magician back home got word of it, and he's headed over. And he wants to... Oh, there's a nice little drawing. 40 issues I bought of it, so I must like it. So I can't recommend it more than to buy 40 issues of it. And I've shown you all 40 issues. Well, actually, I haven't, because I missed the first issue of Birthright and ended up picking up the fourth or fifth issue and buying the trade after I liked that issue, and I've been buying it since issue 5, I think. So I've showed you 35 issues of it. Oh, one more thing. I am going to New York Comic Con for a little bit tomorrow on Friday afternoon from like, I don't know, 2:30 to 6:30. I'm planning on being there. I'll be walking around Artist Alley, so if you know, it'll be a social event for me. I'll be talking to a whole bunch of people who I know from the comic book business from way back, who I probably haven't seen in years. So if you want to say hi, come over and say hi, because I'll be saying hi to a lot of people. Meanwhile, let me show you a little bit of artwork I did today. There's the this is what the size I was doing the pencils. You can see that blue line is the original sketch from my ink book that I blew up and drew this size. And then I blew it up once again and drew some more and then inked it this size. This is my horizontal comic book cover. I think I'm going to mark a color of this one. Beyond the beyond the beyond. And see that little dot 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 and infinity sign? That means the dot dot dots are actually ellipses. So it's so the beyond the beyond the beyond actually goes on into infinity. That's the name of the book. But we can't talk into infinity. But I just came up with that years ago and kind of always liked it, and I haven't done many covers of this type and horizontal and weird beyond the beyond Twilight Zone sort of stuff. So I don't know if anyone's ever noticed that logo or not. So I figured I'd point it out. Anything else to show you? Oh, this is just the stuff from last week. You've seen it. All right then. You guys all have a good week out there.